So bullish Bitcoin, bad for MMT.
Right, but bad for also like all of the 9 billion humans that live on this planet, which I think ultimately is also bearish for Bitcoin. Because I think again, one of the challenges I have, is it's interesting to posit, what the world would look like if there were greater Bitcoin adoption. But I do think if you look at the options the Fed has, they're fairly limited. So it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. And so the question is like, do you set the world on fire and watch it burn? I mean, I don't think there's really a graceful option other than UBI, debt forgiveness, and infinite money printing. Jeff, I'd be curious to hear what you think. Is there another alternative?
Well, so
also we need a drink at a Meltem.
Oh, shit.
Governments all over the world are trying to stop a major depression, and there has to be a reset. And if you try to kick that can down the road, it's just making the problem bigger and bigger. So there's really two paths. You could stop doing that, which would be bullish for currencies, or you could not stop doing that, which is going to be bullish for Bitcoin and bearish for currencies. Both paths, unfortunately, now because the problem is so big, we are going to go through a dislocation. Unfortunately, like society is going to either have to deal with a depression where you reset, or wealth transfer at such enormous terms to the rich, where you have revolutions and currency failures. Unfortunately,
it's similar to an engine with a crack in the engine hull, and the crack just keeps getting bigger, but you have to keep the engine running. So they're providing the oil into the engine, which is the liquidity. And as they continue to go down that path, they have to keep the engine running, but the crack keeps on getting bigger. So they have to keep providing more and more liquidity into the system. If they choose to not put the liquidity into the system, they're just accelerating the inevitable. But by supplying the oil and the crack getting bigger and bigger, you're eventually going to get there.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Yeah, I would say one of the only, for making the argument for silver linings, and I'm with Jeff, I'm bearish MMT, but right now, given your current conditions and circumstances, the US, if it was US led, taking advantage of the fact that you have the world's reserve currency and there's a global shortage of safe haven assets. So if you're sitting there at the Treasury, or you're sitting there in Jerome Powell's seat and you're saying, let's do we're already doing large scale debt monetization. If we can actually leverage that in the short term while we have this advantage to actually pull the US out of this, economic depression, so to speak, before other countries, because there's a lot of other countries that are trying to do the same thing and run the same blueprint, but they can't without these reserve currencies, right? And it's not just the dollar. There's other reserve currencies that people can take advantage of. I think that's kind of one of the only scenarios in which, you could potentially make the argument of the silver lining of, why not use that to your advantage now and try and, save your domestic economy as best you can, because, to Preston's point, there is no other option right now. You have to continue to pump money in the system. You have to continue to try to put money in people's hands, because it is one of those very, very unprecedented type of situations.
Yeah, that was created. Right?
Yes.
Like, let's not forget that the game board.
This is an accelerant. Yeah, this is an accelerant, not the root cause.
Exactly.